Good morning, everyone. Britt Simon here. How are you doing? Let's see if we can take some questions. See anybody, if you have any questions, feel free to come and ask them. I don't have a particular topic, which means that you can ask your questions. Just go ahead and ask your questions, and I'll take them as quickly as I can to try and answer as many questions as possible. Okay. So let's see. All right. So let's see if we've got some. Where am I? Yeah. Good morning, voiceover funny. How you doing? That's a strange one. So people are probably going to ask me about are there any visas left for DV 2024? Let's have a look at that data first of all. Screen, entire screen. And we'll do this one. Okay. So just so that people can see the data as it stood last night, there were 52,295 visas issued, plus 157 that are in AP status, which, as we know, is when they're being issued. Is that number a little bit high? Let me just check that number. It's not the number I remember. 52,295 plus 157. Oh yeah, 52,452 would be the number there in total. 52,452. Now. We know that there are 54,847 visas available, and we've got 52,452, right? Minus 52,452, 2,395 visas available. However, we also know that there are adjustment of status cases, and there are over 1,000 of those that have been issued so far. So when I'm talking to people, I'm taking that adjustment of status number into account, which technically they should do. They are DV lottery, numbers, and the government, when they've been publishing their information just recently in a lawsuit, which Curtis Morrison has kindly reported, they are listing the adjustment of status numbers. In other words, I believe they're taking them into account. I have to say, in DV 2023 and DV 2022, they appeared not to take them into account. They actually exceeded the 55,000 quota in DV 2023, even before the adjustment of status numbers were added in. So do we have 2,300 available or 1,300 available? I don't know precisely. There's also this rumor that, again, came out of the lawsuit, that said that the government are trying to end the lottery on the 23rd, planned to end the lottery on September 23rd. That's this Monday. They didn't specify whether that would be the beginning of the day on the 23rd, the end of the day of the 23rd, and of course it's just the lawyers talking about that. So I don't think we can take that as an official announcement of the end. It is possible that we might see the process continue for a few more days. And if there's 1,300 left, we've been seeing issuances of around about 500 per day, a little bit more, a little bit less some days. So in theory, we could see visas continuing until, let's say, Tuesday or Wednesday. But they could just arbitrarily stop the process. We can't be sure they won't do that. They might have said to themselves, they might have even sent a cable by now to the embassies saying, hey, we're going to stop at, on the 23rd. Therefore, from the 24th, let's say, don't issue any more visas. They could have done that. We don't know. One thing that happened in that very similar thing happened in DV 2023 on September 6th. There was a published statement by the government saying that they were ending the lottery that day. I'm watching for that statement. I have a script that's watching for where that statement would be published. And so, if I see that statement, I would actually believe the 23rd a little bit more if it said, yes, we plan to stop on the 23rd. That statement could be published over this weekend. they do have statements which are published 7 days a week. So, it could come this weekend. So I'm watching out for that, and I will obviously let everyone know if I hear of that. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand. Between 300 and 1,300 visas left, depending on whether we take into account adjustment of status or not. Okay. All right, let's take some of these questions then. How no expect VB next month? How number expect? I don't know what you mean. How no expect? So the visa bulletin is published every month between the 8th and the 15th. Of course, for DV25, we saw a repeat in the second month from the first month. That's partly, I believe, because the first month was very generous in its numbers. And it's not the first time we've seen that. So it did happen in 2022, a complete repeat. Will it repeat again? I don't think it'll repeat again. I don't think it'll repeat 3 times, right? So I'm expecting to see an increase in the visa bulletin numbers when that is published. But I expect to see that published between the 8th and the 15th of the month. Every month it's the same answer. Every single month for the last 12 years that I've been talking about this. The answer is, well, the VB is generally published between the 8th and the 15th of the month. That doesn't mean that there haven't been some exceptional months. There's been some cases where it was published on the 7th. I think it was published on the 6th one time. There have been cases where it's been published quite late, 22nd, 23rd. That has happened, right? But in general, they target between the 8th and the 15th. So that's what I expect for next month, right? DV26, when will that open? They haven't announced that yet. It's not unusual that they haven't announced it. They announced it, I think, with about 1 week to go last year. We will probably see a leaked information, perhaps even this week, of the entry period dates. But what I can tell you is that it will be in October. It'll be roughly the first week in October. It'll open, and it'll run until the first week of November. That's roughly when it will run. So get ready for that. I'll be publishing a couple of videos about that this week. I hope you're all right. I'm a DV25 EU28K. I chose London as my embassy, and I don't see anyone being approved from London. Should I be worried? No, you shouldn't be worried. There's plenty of people get approved in London. I don't know what you mean that you don't see people approved in London. That's nuts. Let's prove it's nuts, shall we? Let's go and check. We can look at all the data and we can say, okay, show me an embassy, London. And then let's see how many visas that embassy has issued. It's issued 151 visas this year. So that's in DV 2024. So I don't know where you get the idea that it was that it's not publishing, that it's not issuing. Of course it's issuing. It has some T21Gs and refusals as well, but but that's very normal. Okay, so no problems there. You can process in London, no problem at all. Mantha, how you doing? Yeah, I was about to get nagged apparently. Like and subscribe. Yes, absolutely. What about 2024 2NL? There are no more 2NLs coming in DV 2024. Come on, people. Like, if you've been listening to what I've been saying just in the last week or so, week or 10 days, we're getting concerned that the visas will run out before the end of the month, right? So why on earth are people still expecting there to be more 2NLs coming out for DV 2024? It's time to accept the reality. The program's about to end. We're probably going to run out of visas early, whether it's on the 23rd or a little bit later. I think will run out, right? So why would they be sending any more 2NLs? I mean, come on, time to accept. I've tried to play, the positivity, game, if you like, over the last month or so. But it's really been pretty clear for the last month that we wouldn't see any more DV 2024 2NLs, right? Apart from the fact that their 2NL system is broken right now. Apart from that fact, right? Anyway, no more 2024 2NLs. I'm sorry, if you didn't get one already, you're not going to get one. It's time to accept that reality. Okay, I think you have to accept that now. When will I receive 2LN? You mean 2NL? AF27K? I don't know, Hakeem, because it depends when you submit the DS260. Depends how long your DS260 in particular takes. It depends on your embassy and how much capacity they have and whether they build a backlog or not. And I don't know. I don't know many of those things. When will AF27K be current is probably a reasonable question. I don't think it'll be current in the next visa bulletin, which is for December interviews, but probably for January, maybe February. But when will you get a 2NL? Like I say, I don't know, because I don't know your situation. Assalamu alaikum, mister, and to you. Thank you for the many contributions over 2024 diversity fiscal year. I've finally got my visa. Well done, Mohammed. Glad to hear it. Strange World, could tell me, please. Oh, I could tell you if you ask me a question. I don't see a question from you. So yeah, tell me a question, I'll give you an answer. My case number 2025, AS9000. My embassy is Oman. Is it possible to get to an L? Yes. Love this channel. Me too. I love this channel. Hi, sir. Ethiopia 2024 September 18th appointment. Entered my case is 27K. Some of my friends are already issued, but mine is still ready. What does it mean? Okay. Sometimes the embassies are just slow to update the status after the interview. It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad about your case. You just have to be a bit patient. Now, obviously, there is a time deadline here, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to email your embassy and ask them about the status of your case. Did they give you the impression they were going to improve your case? Now, just bear in mind that anything they say verbally is not legally binding. So even if they said or gave you a piece of paper saying your case is approved, none of that is legally binding. So if, for example, they give you a piece of paper or they say you're going to be approved, they could easily put your case into 221G afterwards. Or they could just be slow about it and the program could end, right? You can only really relax when you have the visa issued. Maybe when you see the words administrative processing in SIAC. But yeah, don't bank on your visa until you have absolute confirmation. Okay. Addis doing well. Believe me, boss. They call 29912 case in Addis. Yeah. I saw you put something about this in Telegram, and I was going to challenge you on it because it's kind of a daft statement. Addis Ababa didn't do good, right? How can you possibly rejoice and be pleased that they have got to case number 29,912 or whatever case number they got to? How can you be pleased with that performance when other embassies in Africa went up to 100, 120,000? Tell me that. What you're saying here is they did well compared to what? I mean, you know, they did a good thing right in the final month. They took a lot of interviews for the final month. Okay, great, but they had already ignored most of the people for the rest of the year. So I'm sorry, but you know, if I've got a girlfriend that treats me badly all year round, and then on the last day of the month she treats me, you know, last day of the year she treats me nice, she's still a bad girlfriend, right? And that's basically the embassy of Addis. They didn't do well in 2024. And I think people are already misunderstanding the signs that we're hearing from, you know, early interviews, etc. in 2025. I wouldn't trust Addis Ababa as far as I could throw them right now. I want to see real reaction, real proactive work. And getting to almost 30,000, that's not impressive at all. That's a screw up. Okay, so about adjust your thinking, or go and explain to people, you know, 35,000 in Addis Ababa, or 40,000, or 50,000, or 80,000. Go and explain to them how well Addis Ababa did. No, they didn't do well. I'm from Jamaica. My wife is a U.S. citizen. She filed the I-130 August 23 at Nebraska. How long will it be approved and sent to embassy? I have no idea. I don't deal with any of those sort of cases. I only talk about DV lottery. Okay. DV25 from Sudan, case number above 80K. Which embassy can make it to my CN and get me an interview? So you're asking for me to be able to see into the future, pretty much a year from now. What I would say to you is you have to just wait, right? I would not, if I were you, be looking to change embassies or do anything like that at the moment. There's too many people who have already in DV 2025, based on understandings or misunderstandings from DV 2024, they've changed their embassies and their case numbers are like 50, 60,000, or in your case, above 80,000. You don't need to do a damn thing at the moment. You just need to be patient. And in January, we will have data and we'll begin to see whether this embassy or that embassy is doing well. Will Nairobi continue to be good? Will Addis continue to be bad? Will Ankara continue to be a disaster? Right? Will Accra continue to be a pain in everyone's arse? So, we will know those things in January. Why would you, why would you be thinking about this now? You need to think about this later. Your high number, and it is a high number, your high number is a little bit of a curse and a little bit of a benefit. The benefit, if you know how to use it, is that you'll have time to make a decision before you get locked into one particular embassy. That's powerful if you know how to use it. A lot of people ignored my advice last year and they lost their chances. But if you listen to me this year, and if people do listen, cases with high case numbers might be able to save their chances and have a chance if they act wisely during the sort of the spring part of next year. Okay, so just relax for now, just chill out, and we'll see which embassy might be a good embassy for you to be at. Maybe you're at the best embassy, I don't know. Okay. Hi, Simon. When is the last day of visa issuing for 2024? Yeah, I just spoke about that at the beginning. I don't know exactly when we're going to come to an end. Mantha says, I'm anxiously waiting for the next VB. I can't wait to see my number go current. It's so close. Canada is no longer a habitable place for me. Oh, USA is the only way for me. I'm sorry, it's not a habitable place for you. Is it the winter? Is it because it's cold? Let me know in the Telegram chat why it's no longer a habitable place. I don't know. Yeah. Good evening from Turkmenistan. Good evening to you. Hello, says RRK Vlog. I'm DV25, my case number AF12K, and still I am stage 1. Yeah, you're stage 1. Stage 1 is when your DS260 isn't processed, right? Your you could have submitted your DS260 on May 10th and it might still not be processed. You could be a low case number with, submitted May 10th, May 9th, or whatever, the earliest possible dates. And you might still not be processed because you might have something about your case that takes extra checking. Maybe you've got some travel history in the Middle East. Maybe you're a nuclear weapons designer who, has traveled extensively through Iran and is called Osama bin Fighting. I don't know. I don't know your exact your DS260 bits, but there could be something about your DS260 that is taking longer to process. And a lot of that is to do with Middle East, and dare I say it, Muslim, the perception of Muslim terrorism, the true problems that there are in the Middle East, etc. And America has certain sort of anti-terrorist mechanisms in place and background screening mechanisms in place where sometimes, for no apparent reason, for no justifiable reason, a person will be, will pop up, will need longer background checking than we would normally be able to guess. And it could be as simple as something as your name matches someone on the no-fly list, or is very similar to someone on the no-fly list, or someone is on the no-fly list or a terrorism list of some sort. There are lots of really coincidental reasons why some cases might sort of be flagged for a further level of background screening, and then that can take a long time. And frankly, it appears completely random. But bear in mind that, certainly since 2001, there's been a lot of, new policies and new programs put in place with regard to keeping, the USA and its citizens safe, right? That might sound bad to you as an outsider coming to America, but that is their main job, their main concern. If we look at the medical requirements, for example, the diseases they care about are not diseases that affect you. They don't give a damn about you. They affect the diseases they care about, and there are only 4 of them. They are all diseases of public health significant. Whose public health? Americans' public health, right? It's about protecting Americans from your diseases, right? It's about protecting Americans from all the bad terrorists, right? So it might seem like a childish or xenophobic or racist perspective. It may seem that way to you, but sorry, that's how America is acting, and they have the right to do that. And offering green cards to people is a privilege. It's not a right that they're offering that to you. So they will go through various levels of background screening based on security, based on medical, based on your honesty and so on, in order to say whether you will be allowed to continue with the process or not, right? So that's probably why you're still in stage 1. Your name may have something to do with it. Your name is Muscab, Salax, Dakar, Madax, Wania, Mustaka, Belka. I mean, you've got such an incredible name there. You probably match someone on the terrorism list with some part of that name, right? Because you've chosen to make your profile name like enormous, and you've presumably given your profile. They're probably spending 6 months on checking your name, or trying to work out how you spell it. So I don't know. Maybe you should have gone with John Smith as your profile name. Sundar, hi sir, I'm from Nepal, 2025 DV winner. My case number is 12,000. So will I get a chance or not? Okay, so Nepal is kind of an interesting case, right? There's a couple of things I want to say about Nepal. Firstly, Nepal will have all of its winners concentrated in some number of the first, could be 12,000, 13,000. I don't know what the number will be, but it'll be in the first X number of thousand case numbers, right? All of the winners are concentrated in that number. I don't know yet what the cutoff for Nepal will be, and I probably won't know reliably until January the 1st, right? So I can't tell you whether you're in the 90th percentile, for example, or the 99th percentile, but you're probably fairly high with a 12,000 number. You're probably fairly high in relation to Nepal, right? I'll know better in January, so will you. The other thing I would say about Nepal is Nepal normally gets through all of its cases, but this past year, or this year that we're currently just about to finish off, DV 2024, it was inexplicably stopped early, and that was surprising. It's surprising because normally Nepal is allowed to just run until the end. They normally go current. The number set in the visa bulletin is higher than the number actually selected. So it's odd that they stopped it early this year. I don't know whether that was a decision made locally in Kathmandu or whether that was a decision made by the government in KCC. Don't know. But I'd be a little bit more concerned for high case numbers in DV 2025 than I would normally be for case numbers from Nepal, I'm talking about. Because of what they did in DV 2024. Okay, so fingers crossed for you. Daniel, good evening from Turkmenistan. My case number is EU 39300. Do you think I have a chance for interview in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan? That's almost certainly a very high case number. That would be equivalent to a number in DV 2024 that never became current, right? The numbers are shifted this year a little bit in DV 2025, so that your number 39,300 is probably equivalent to something like 60,000 in DV 2024, roughly speaking. Now, that number didn't become current in DV 2024. I think there's a high chance your number may not become current in DV 2025. If it does, then you may be okay in Turkmenistan, but we'll obviously have to watch the performance of the embassy in 2025. Okay, and that means that you need to watch from January onwards. But Daniel, there is a significant chance, just by your number, that your number is going to be too high. I would imagine. Maxim says, would you estimate a situation with 31K Russia if he studies in China? Is it a good chance to get an interview? Same sort of comments that I just gave to Daniel, Maxim, in your case. You may not be held back by a cutoff number, but you could be held back by a cutoff number. And again, your 31K in Russia is higher than 31K in DV 2024. The EU case numbers in DV 2024 went up to about 65,000, right? And people don't seem to understand. You could have any number, right? You could have 65,000, you could have 130,000, 250,000, any number, right? Because it's just an ordering. It doesn't matter. There's gaps in between the numbers. So having case number 31,000 in EU does not mean that there are 31,000 cases in front of you. It doesn't mean that at all. So depending on the number of gaps, the number of people, a number of cases can be sort of increased or decreased in terms of the number of cases, but there can be a dramatic increase or decrease in terms of the case numbers issued or selected. So that EU 65K in 24 is probably going to be equivalent to EU 40,000 in 25, right? When I say equivalent in terms of the position of where you are compared to all the other cases. So 31,000 in Russia is going to be quite a high case number for EU and for Russia. It's not going to be super low, right? So anyway, we'll know more about that in January when we have the precise SEAC data. I've got my fingers crossed that the government are going to do something special to get us the SEAC data earlier. Zarthisius keeps telling me I'm a bloody idiot for thinking that way, but I don't know. I harbor this little hope that they're going to do a nice thing, and I sort of connect it with the problem they're having at the moment with 2NLs. But we'll see. But the normal thing is we get the SEAC data in January 1, and then we'll know better then. Okay. Okay. Dungetta says, thanks for the good analysis. My question is, somebody is not sure of the email if he or she provided in DV25 application M1 AF31. Doesn't matter. As long as you have your information to get into the case, which is your full name, your date of birth, your confirmation number, as long as you can get into the DS260, you're fine. Where the email is a problem is if you have to use the forgot confirmation number link. One of the pieces of data you need is the email address that was used for the entry, right? So sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it isn't a problem. But in the DS260, you provide a new email address anyway, and that's the email address that they'll send to you for the processing, right? So probably won't be a problem for you as long as you can get into the DS260. Flappers, why did Bulletin start with 6K and stay for 1 month more? Why was it repeated? Can the next month be current to 9K? Maybe. Why did it stay that way? Well, because it was too much to start with, probably is the main reason. They also have this technical problem in sending 2NLs, and that might have factored into it. But I think, I think on the most likely answer is because the first numbers that they published were very high and they were a guess, and they didn't feel they needed to change the numbers in the second month. Can it go to 9,000? Yeah, maybe. We'll wait and see. I'm not doing a prediction that it'll be 9,000. We'll just wait and see. Mohammed says, my case number is AF 6700. I have a 6-month visa to India as an attendant for medical reasons. Should I wait for my second NL, an interview, or travel there and come back. My embassy is Addis Ababa. I mean, I didn't really understand any of that. Like, what difference is it whether you have a 6-month visa to India? I don't know. Like, are you trying to tell me that when you go to India, there's no way back for 6 months? Is that what you're saying? Or are you trying to say you're going to go to India for 6 months and you want to have your interview there? That might be wise. I don't know what you're saying, really, Mohammed. You've got to be a little bit more clear with your question here. Adam says, welcome our savior. Savior? Oh, God, it sounds religious. Don't do that. I am from Ethiopia. My case number is 2600. From my 2NL, didn't receive when my 2NL come, if you think, and our Ethiopian, God bless you, thanks. Oh, there you go. Got religious on me. Right, so Adam, your number is really good, obviously, 2600. I don't think there's any way that Addis could misbehave badly enough to not get to your number. So you just have to be patient. With a number like that, really, you've got no concerns. Just relax, right? And you'll be fine, right? Just relax. You'll be fine. Oh, hang on. I just realized I'm assuming you're DV25. Is that right? Are you 25? If you're 24, then it's over for you, obviously. But assuming you're DV25, then your case number is very good and you can relax. Okay. RRK log. I'm 24 DV winner. My visa status is still refused. I got an interview 5th February. Crikey, you've waited a long time. At Kathmandu, what can I do now? You need to email. I hope you've been contacting them. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy waiting all that long time. But anyway, yeah, you should be contacting the embassy and saying, what's up? Am I going to get my visa or not? And you need to do that like now. You need to email them now and hope that the program doesn't stop before they can issue your visa. Now, if for some reason they need to continue 221G, and they don't resolve it before the visas run out, then you will have lost your chance. You can't be approved later on 221G. If you aren't approved by the time the deadline comes down, then your case is done. It can't be approved later. Okay, there isn't a visa reserved for you or anything like that. Okay. Does the September 23rd date include AOS people? My bank statement shows me they took out my application money on Wednesday of last week. Holy crap, you filed late, Timothy. Was only current for September. Oh, Jesus. And you didn't use the early filing policy. You're probably working with a lawyer that doesn't understand the early filing policy. You should have filed in July for a start, right? So I don't know why you didn't do that. Let me know at britsimonsays.com any more information than that. But I'm hoping if you were doing adjustment of status, you've been listening to someone's mum in the forums.immigration.com forum. She's the expert on adjustment of status. It sounds like you only filed at the beginning of September. Sounds like you're only just in the early process. And whilst I have known of cases get processed and completed in that timeline, it's very risky this year, obviously, because to answer your original question, when they stop issuing visas, that will stop adjustment of status cases too. Yeah, that's how it will work. That's how it worked in September of last year. Adjustment of status cases were stopped at the same time. So you left it very, very late to file your paperwork. That was a mistake. I think it may cost you. So because you've got to go through a lot of steps. And that's probably not going to happen within 2 or 3 days, and that's probably all we've got at most. This week. I don't think we'll get to the end of the week right? I don't think we get to Friday. So we'll see. What is registration of courier mean after submitting DS260? So it's only when you submit your DS260, you then just have to wait to be notified for your interview. When you have been notified that you're going to have an interview, some embassies, not all of them, but some embassies require you to register with what I call a courier. UStraveldocs.com or something is one of them. UAIS visas or something is another one. And so these websites, essentially they're couriers or communications expert. They act as a go-between between the embassy themselves and you. They're a go-between between those things. And they can do things like scheduling interviews, rescheduling interviews, and that sort of thing. They also deal with the courier part, which is returning the passport to you once the visa is affixed into it, right? So some embassies require that you register an account with them. You don't have to create an appointment time with them because you already would have an appointment for your case, but you do need to register an account with them, right? But all of that only happens when you've been given an interview date, which normally is via the 2NL. There's a bit of a weird thing going on at the moment with KCC telling people the dates in a different format email. But yeah, you wait until your case has advanced to the point where you've been scheduled to register. Okay. Hi Britt, I did the interview. The embassy holds my passport since I did my interview. My visa status shows ready. Until now, is that normal? Can we do interview and status shows ready? Yes, that can happen. Basically, the update of the SEAC data is kind of an optional step for the embassy. It's an additional step, clearly, because they can process cases and sometimes they'll even go and issue those visas without updating the SEAC data until quite late in the process. So sometimes we see a ready case go to 221G, sometimes it goes to a status called administrative processing, sometimes it goes directly to issued, and sometimes it stays at ready for a little while after the interview. That can happen too. Sometimes it will go to 221G and it will go to ready after that, and then after that it will go to administrative processing or to issue. There's various things that can happen, right? All of that is normal. It happens, right? It doesn't tell you anything about your chances of being approved. But since we're in the final days here, you do need to see that status change to issued. The update to issued, I believe, is reliable. Okay, that pretty much always happens. When can we expect the appointment for interviews? No appointments have been sent to candidates till now. So that's not really true. There have been, for DV 2025, there are people scheduled for interview. People have emailed KCC and KCC have responded saying with a letter, slightly unusual format letter or email that says an appointment for your interview has been set up at your embassy, and it provides the embassy name for this date, right? 3rd of October, 10th of October. We're seeing that for November cases too. So it is not true to say that no appointments have been sent to candidates till now. No 2NLs, no normal 2NLs have been sent, right? A 2NL meaning they send out an email. A 2NL is this process. They send an email to your email that you gave in the DS260. In that email, it doesn't give any details, but it says you have updates available at the ESC page. The ESC page normally should hold the interview appointment once an interview is arranged, and that part of the process is not working. For some reason, they're not able to get the appointment PDF loaded into that ESC page for some reason. They're also not updating SEAC, I don't think, but we can't prove that 100% because we don't have access to SEAC for DV 2025. But I suspect they're not updating that either. But they are setting the dates, and the embassy knows the dates, right? So there is some way they're communicating the dates to the embassy. It may be through the CX system. But the part of the system that is broken right now is that bit that uploads the appointment details to the ESC page. That page, by the way, is the same page where you checked and found that you were originally a winner. So the original selected, congratulations, you are selected letter, that becomes replaced by the interview appointment letter. If you want that first letter, by the way, go in there and grab it, download it as a PDF, because once your appointment letter is produced, it'll override or overlay that other letter, and you can't see the first letter. So that bit of it isn't working properly, and it's causing confusion for sure. It's also causing the embassies more work. It's causing KCC more work, and so it's definitely a technical glitch. And there have been a number of emails now where people have received an email saying from KCC, there is a technical problem which they expect to be resolved soon. And they've given various dates for that resolution. They've suggested it would be resolved by the 18th. And I've seen emails saying it would be resolved by the 20th. And another one saying it would be resolved by the 23rd and the 24th. Various dates have been given. And so far, those dates have been exceeded and no fix in place, right? So, but anyway, so when will we start seeing 2NLs? Your guess is as good as mine. Can the email go to the junk, or does it appear in your inbox? Well, yes, you can obviously have settings in your email system that will send an email to the junk. And many people miss their 2NL because of that. They either miss it or they're late to receive it. I've had people who've sworn to me, I never received that email, and they told me I had an interview and it passed in June of this year, and they had never sent out the email. And I'm like, bullshit, go and check your spam. And in some cases where the spam isn't deleted, lo and behold, there was the email that got sent straight through to the spam box. And so, yeah, be careful with that. You need to check that, right? So it can go there, but it's your email settings. It's not the government's fault for your email setting, right? Chantel says, I had contacted KCC, was told my visa interview date in DV25. I contacted my local embassy inquiring, because you want to know the time. By the way, with that explanation I just gave to the other gentleman, KCC tell you the date, but they don't tell you the time, which is annoying. I wish they would include that. They have that information. They could modify that in the email template. But anyway, I contacted my local embassy inquiring. They told me they still haven't received names of those to be interviewed in October. That's kind of bullshit, Chantel. I don't mean you're telling bullshit. I mean they are. We have got many embassies that have started to communicate to the people that have been set up for interview in October and November. We know that the embassies have been told the appointment details, right? So why your embassy is pretending they haven't had that data, I don't know. I don't know why they're saying that, but I've heard this from a couple of people that their embassies say, "Oh, we don't know." Well, that's not true. It's just not true. They know. They're just being coy about it for some reason. So hopefully we will have the fix soon that will give people access to the actual 2NL, the appointment date. If you don't have, so here's what I would say. If you know your interview appointment is on the 1st of October or the 3rd of October or the 10th of October, whenever it is, let's say by that time, the technical problem is not resolved. And let's say by that time, the embassy says they don't have an appointment for you. I would still turn up to the embassy on that day, right? Even if certainly if the embassy says, yeah, we know you're coming on that day, no problem. You definitely want to go there, right? But even if the embassy says, no, we don't have your appointment, I would turn up anyway. I would turn up there at 7 o'clock in the morning or something. I'd have a sandwich with me, and I would wait all day. And I would tell the security guards and the staff at the embassy, hey, I've got a letter here. Show them the letter. I've got a letter from KCC. It says I'm due to be here. It doesn't give me the time, so I came at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've waited all day. So That's what I would do. And that would be the best way to make sure that even if they don't see you that day, that they will reorganize themselves and get you an appointment as quickly as possible. And once they've had a few people doing that on the 1st of October and the 2nd of October and the 3rd of October or whatever days, right? Once they've had a few people doing that, they'll get the message and they'll get on the phone to KCC or they'll send an email and say, hey, KCC, how do we figure out who's coming in at what time? Right? They'll figure it out once you put that pressure on them. 2025 9,000 is high case number. Not particularly high. It's a little bit high. I've applied before a long time ago, but I didn't go forward. Okay. Hi, sir. Greetings from Dubai. Me and the wife tried to unlock our DS260 form to add our newborn, but KCC reply, we were current already. Any advice for us? DV 2025 AF 5K. Right. So all you can do now, I mean, I assume that there was just bad timing that you became current in the last few weeks, and the baby was only just born, right? I'm hoping you didn't just sit there on your ass and you've got a 6-month-old baby that you haven't added to your DS260. But basically, you're going to have to communicate to the embassy now and say, hey, we've got a baby. We wanted to, the normal way would have been to add the baby to the DS260. You would normally unlock your own DS260s, both you and your spouse, and you would also create a DS260 for the baby. All of that is now going to happen through a communication to the embassy, either before the interview or, if necessary, at the interview. And it will cause you some delay, but that's okay. You need to do that, right? Because you've got to get a green card for the baby. Okay. Is 2NL not coming for at least October interviews? We are 1 week away. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know when it will get fixed. If you are in the administrative process and it passed 30th December, can you still get the visa? Please answer me. Right. We have to be very clear here about the terminology, right? In the SEAC system, for DV 2024 cases, you either see refused, which is a 221G, or you see the words administrative processing. If you're in that latter status of administrative processing, if it says that in SEAC, then a visa has been approved for you. It has been counted. And even if that went past the 30th of the month, you would still get the visa. We've seen that happen before. That happened in 22 and 23, and we've seen it happening, right? So that would be okay. If, on the other hand, you're in 221G, which is sometimes called administrative processing, because that's what it was called for years and years and years. If you're in that step and September 30th comes along, or the process ends early, then you're out of luck. You won't get your visa at all, ever. They can't approve a case after September 30th. What they can do is print the visa for a case that's already been approved before the deadline. Okay. Okay. Sent an email to KCC and got a reply that my case is current and I should be expecting to be scheduled. How specific date was not given? Right. So, embassy is accurate. Well, there you go. There's your answer. Okay. So I explained to people this. When you email KCC at this time and you are current, your number is current. When they reply to you saying you're current for interview processing, instead of saying yes, we've arranged a visa interview for you, that means one of two things. Either your DS260 was processed late enough after the deadline for the first cases to be scheduled, or the second month of cases to be scheduled, or that your embassy is going slow with cases and there were more people in front of you than you had than they would accept for interview. Now, because you're telling us it's ACRA, it's most likely that is the problem. ACRA in DV 24 and 23 has been on this sort of go slow process where they only interview 20, maybe 30 cases per month. and that they may not even be doing that. And so there are probably more people in front of you than their capacity, than ACRA's capacity has been set at. Okay, and that's why you're being delayed. But your case number is low. You don't need to panic. You'll probably get an interview in a later month, hopefully December, maybe January. Right, might be as late as that, but fingers crossed for you. How about 221G case of KDU? Yeah, I think I've just explained that. Correct. I'm DV25 when I took my case from Ankara to Bosnia. Okay, but what list? But list writing LST writing that we don't accept ID YOC. You are not citizen or have right to live here. According to new SOW, do I have a problem? Well, don't understand most of that. I'm afraid your English is not really perfect, but I think you're talking about the new policy. There is a policy now that you don't have to interview where you live potentially. I don't think all of the embassies will respect this. I don't think KCC are comfortable with it yet, shall we say. They're not fully supporting this policy. But if you can show physical presence in another country, or that you have the right to be there legally, that you've got like a visitor's visa or something like that until the end of the process, then that other embassy should accept you, right? Some embassies prior to this new policy were asking for proof of that visa and that sort of thing in order to actually in the interview, in order to weed out people who had told a lie. I don't think they should do that as much going forward, but they might still do that. They could still do that, right? So we'll have to wait and see how they're operating. All you can do is just follow the path. If you've been successfully reassigned to Bosnia, just continue with that. Hopefully you've thought about whether you can get a visa to actually get into Bosnia to take that interview. And is it held in Bosnia, or is that one of the embassies that's transferred their cases to Frankfurt? I'm not sure. But anyway, just follow the process and see what happens. A lot of it will depend when you're interviewed, right? Okay, explain that. My case number is AF3K. I have my appointment on November the 5th. What may I be advised to do at this moment? Prepare. You should be, by now, you should be trying to book your medical. You should be obtaining police certificates. You should be getting all of your documentation together. You should be reading and rereading and memorizing the instructions. And when I say read the instructions, I mean the instructions you were given in your original selected letter. You go to a link that says if you are selected, and it gives the sort of the process from end to end of the process, right? It gives a diagram of the process, that link. And in that page, there are links to two other instructions that you need to read. One is the instructions for the embassy themselves, and the other is the reciprocity page. All of that information is there. So you need to have read all of those instructions, right? So read the instructions, get your documents together, apply for and obtain your police certificates, book your medical. Your medical, by the way, they may not want to book your medical. Some physicians will say you can't book that unless you show us the 2NL. And so you try and show them the message that you got from KCC. Some physicians will accept that, some won't. And some will be a pain in the ass. But you can attend the interview anyway, even if your medical hasn't been completed yet. And then you'll just be delayed while your medical is completed. Okay. Okay, let's see. Just skipping over a couple of repeated questions here. Hi, sir. The way things are right now, with no 2NLs sent out yet in the last week of September 2025, do you think there will ever be interviews this October or November, or entire program will have huge delay? We know there are interviews in October and November. I've already said that, right? I know lots of people who have got their interview dates in October and November. Now, will there be people delayed? Yes, of course there will be, because Some people have no idea. Some people, believe it or not, don't know about me. They don't know about the Telegram channels. They don't know about BritSimonSays.com. They don't know about other YouTubers, perhaps, that might be giving information. So some people may not have contacted KCC, and therefore they will miss their October interviews. However, the number of people normally scheduled in October and November for interviews is pretty low. It's not even, it's not a normal percentage compared to the rest of the year. So those cases will need to be rescheduled by the embassies. And yes, it will hit the capacity of the embassies somewhat, right? But it's not going to be a absolute disaster because the numbers of scheduled cases are low and some people are going to attend their interviews on time. Okay, so no need to panic. And I do suspect we're going to see this sorted out. I suspect we'll see it sorted out by early October at the very latest. And we'll see. Zelena. Okay. I'm going to try and do 5 or 10 minutes more of quick questions and answers, right? So I'm from Ethiopian. My DV 2025 winning the CN is 3K. Submitted the DS260 in May, but till now, interview is not scheduled, but 6.5K is scheduled. Yeah, totally normal, right? We know that Addis, for example, and this is what I was trying to say earlier. Be very careful not to assume that just because Addis has issued an interview for a case number at 6,500, that everyone below 6,500 has got an interview. That certainly isn't the case, as you're proving. I made that point to some people in a Telegram channel chat a couple of days ago. Because the number of people that have got their DS260 processed at this time of year is low. That's partly why the visa bulletin number is high, because the number of people that can be scheduled for interview is a low percentage. And then those people, since their DS260s will be then processed, let's say, in October or November or December, once those people's DS260s are processed, then they will be scheduled for an interview. That's what will happen with you. You'll be scheduled once your DS260 has been processed. You'll be scheduled in the next monthly batch of interviews because your case number will be low, so you'll be given a priority for that next batch. Okay, so you can relax, and everybody else can learn the lesson that that we must not assume that Addis is doing better this year because they've issued some interview up to 6,500. Okay, Jenica, Mr. Simon interview schedule county-wise or embassy-wise? County, I think you mean country. I'm from Sri Lanka, but I'm planned to interview Oman. I've done a whole video on how the AV process works. There is a queue of cases in AV status at each embassy, and that's arranged by case number essentially. But the point at which you're added to that queue is maintained, is held. So you could have higher case numbers go before lower case numbers because the higher case numbers were processed first and therefore went into that queue of AV status first, right? I've produced a video that explains that, if that sounds confusing to you. But it's not based on the country you're from. So you're not exploited against because you're from a different country in Oman. Everybody at that embassy is a foreigner to Americans, right? And it doesn't matter whether that foreigner came from Sri Lanka or from Oman locally or from, Abu Dhabi or anywhere else, right? It doesn't matter, right? There is a way that it gets ordered, but it's not a deliberate exploitation against anyone. Okay. Thanks, Simon. Hallelujah. From Uganda. My visa was approved on the 11th of September in Nairobi, AF98K. You answered all my questions about your blog. Asante Sana. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I'm pleased for you. Nairobi's done a great job this year. Really amazing. I think when I'm thinking about how stupid the government were to make Africa current and all the negative impacts that caused, and it did cause negative impacts. I'm comforted by the fact that it gave chances to people like you that where you were at an embassy that could cope with that high number, and and you went through. Technically, you shouldn't have gone through. You should, it wasn't your year. Your case number was legitimately too high to get an interview, but somehow, and you'll probably think it was from up above, but somehow a miracle for you happened, and that's wonderful. It must mean that you've got something very special to do and to achieve in America, right? Look at it that way. It's a gift from somewhere. You won't get me saying it's a gift from God, but anyway, it's a gift from somewhere. Do you need a police clearance from another country if you've only been there for 7 months? There are certain circumstances, like if you're arrested, for example, then yes, you would need that police certificate. But in general, for 7 months, no, you wouldn't normally be asked for that. But if you want to get the police certificate, there's no harm in getting that. And that could avoid some delay if the consular officer, for some reason, says, I need the police certificate from that country because they suspect you've got some sort of problem there, or because they couldn't reasonably prove that you were only there for 7 months. Maybe they think that you're trying to hide a longer period of residence in that country. In that case, having the police certificate will just make it a little bit quicker and easier to get approved. So it's up to you. What is the reason for some cases are skipped? I think I just explained that with regard to Addis. So when the window of entry application submission will be open exactly, or when the State Department will announce about DV26? Yeah, I don't know the exact day. Hasn't been announced. I could guess it actually, but I'm not gonna. I'll wait for the official announcement, and I suspect it'll be announced. This week. We'll see. Acrams here, pain in everyone's ass. Yep. Herbert, my relative's DV24 AF 114,000. Is that what I mean? Got an interview on Nairobi Embassy and approved for a family of 5. There you go. Even more miraculous. They haven't received an email to pick up the passports from DHR. Okay, but they've been approved and they can see their CX status. So that's a family of 5 in Nairobi at 114,000. Crazy, but wonderful. Okay. Hello, educate me, please. Can one marry after submitting the DS-260 and then add a spouse, or he or she would risk being disqualified? You absolutely can do that. And here's what I would say about it. If you're legitimately in love with someone, then you're going to get married to that person, right? And if that marriage were to cause you to lose your visa, well, so be it. Your love for this person is more important than the visa. If you have a genuine relationship, that's how you would think, right? So I'm always kind of surprised when people say, oh, if I get married, I might lose my visa. Hang on a minute. Which is more important to you, the visa or the wonderful woman of your life, right? And if a consular officer looks at that question and you seem to be more concerned about your visa than your spouse, that's kind of a clue that your marriage isn't genuine. So I would say if your marriage and your relationship is genuine, then yes, get married and go forward. Keep some proof, have some proof. If you've got proof of your relationship having existed prior to the DV lottery win, that's very helpful. If you have a wedding where lots of the family members attend the wedding and you've got photos of all of that, etc., that's helpful, right? Because you're trying to convince the consular officer that your marriage is genuine, right? As long as it's genuine, you should be approved. But if they suspect that your wedding is not real, that your marriage is not real, then yeah, they could refuse your visa, but at least you'd be together. Okay. Can you please comment on the performance of Jerusalem Embassy in the recent months? DV25 here, it's just general idea since my number is current and no 2 and 0. Okay, so Jerusalem has been up and down for obvious reasons, right? I and it's not normally a massive embassy anyway, so I can't really point to a place on on the calendar, if you like, and say, oh, the performance of Jerusalem went, it was really high performing and then went like this. It was never a high performing embassy. It never had to do many interviews. It's not that it was ignoring people. It's just that there aren't many winners there. And so there wasn't enough of a track record to be able to say, oh, something obviously went wrong, probably to do with the the violence and war activity in that region, and therefore the performance of the embassy was curtailed. I can't point to that, so I can't give you a what's normal, because normal is erratic, and right now they're erratic. So you have to wait and see. But look, we haven't even started DV 2025 yet. It's a little bit early to be worried about embassy performance, frankly, especially for one that's not known as one of the really bad embassies. I'm not saying they're bad by any means. Okay. Tete says, KCC replied to my email, states that the case is current and I should be expecting this to be scheduled. Didn't give a specific date. Yeah, fine. I think we've already answered that one. Why 2025 second 2NL is late? It's a technical problem. I spoke about this a few weeks ago. When was that? In sort of mid to late August, I speculated publicly. I created a video where I said, I think there's a problem. It was about the 21st, maybe a little bit after the 21st, but that's when I saw the first real evidence of the problem that I believe actually had happened in early August, around about August 5th or 6th is when the problem started happening. And I published a video saying, I think there's a technical problem. Lo and behold, KCC are now admitting that there is a technical problem. That's why the 2NLs are being delayed, okay? And I've written a fairly detailed set of steps of what you should do if you think you should be interviewed in October or November. You should be contacting KCC, and I've written about that in one of my blog articles at britsimonsays.com. It was the announcement of the visa bulletin. I put lots of information in there that I wouldn't normally put in there to help people at least get their date of the interview. Okay, so go ahead and read that and follow the advice there. Okay. John says, I was in Afghanistan working with the USA military. Can that cause harm to my DS-260? Hence delay the process in the DS-260. No, that won't cause you harm. Thanks for what you did. You did the right thing. And no, that won't cause you harm. That, in fact, if anything, it should be able to help your case. Hello, Silas here. If I applied from my country of origin, but the results found me in another country, found you in another country, I love the way you wrote that. They found me in another country. How do I approach the process from the country I'm given that I cannot travel back? Okay, you can process from wherever you live. It's not that they found you. You just happen to be in this other country. You're living in this other country, I presume. Sounds like you've got good reason to not return to your home country. Fine. Sorry to hear that, but it's no problem for the DV process. You can process wherever you live. Whether that country has DV winners or not doesn't matter. As long as there's a US embassy there, you can process. Okay. So just fill in your DS-260 with your current address of where you actually live, and they will assign the embassy appropriately for you. Okay. Okay, Florence, good news. Through your videos, I was able to help my niece obtain her visa. Awesome stuff, Florence. A couple more quick questions, and that will be it. Is there any chance that DV 2025 not process any case and get closed? No. Why do people always jump to these really illogical, crazy ideas? Yeah, I don't understand how people's brains work that they think that. No, there is no chance of that. In fact, we already know that there are interviews scheduled and will be happening from the beginning of October. So no, it's happening. There's just a technical problem. Relax, dude. It's fine. Oh, hair by Dennis. Oh no, it's probably a dude. Maybe it's a dudette. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Quick scan. Oh, Okay, this will probably be the last question. At David JG, waiting until January to set. Oh, I see. This is an answer to someone else. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure you're answering someone else, or but anyway, waiting until January to submit the DS260 will just delay everything. True to an extent. I'm EU 22K and my DS260 has already been submitted. Don't expect my 2NL until July of 2025. Okay, I think that's late for your 2NL TIS RPO or whatever. People sometimes delay their submission of their DS260, sometimes until January, February, March, etc. At that time, there is rarely a backlog of DS260 processing. So DS260 submitted in January and February are processed pretty quickly because the backlog has already been processed. And so it can cause delay. It may not cause delay. It depends on the situation for the case number, the embassy, and so on. Okay, so, and for some people, they are right to delay submitting because they want to know how the year is going to go and they don't want to create, a problem with immigrant intent and that sort of thing. Okay. Okay, everybody. I think that was it. It was probably. Oh, okay. Let me just answer this. This will be the last question. Kind of a good question, kind of unusual. I won the DV Lottery 2025 and plan to work in the USA but travel back and forth. Is it mandatory to live there permanently to get a passport, or will that affect the process? Okay, two things at play here. Number one, the green card itself is a visa, if you want to call it that. It's not really a visa, but it's a permission to live and work in the USA. The expectation is that you will be a resident of the USA, and you are a resident in terms of paying taxes and maintaining your status and being on probation, etc. Right? So you should be resident in the USA, and working there is one aspect of it, but actually making a home in some other country and just commuting to the USA, that would be, a violation of the rules, and sooner or later they could have a problem with that behavior. But the other part of that is how quickly you get your American passport, your citizenship, right? There is a calculation, there is a mathematical calculation for how much time you have to be in the country, and also there's a question of continuous residence. In order to get the citizenship, you can't. There's a timer, a clock, and that clock will get reset and reduced, etc., by absences, and could get reset by an absence above 6 months. So you have to be a bit careful with that. If you want to achieve citizenship, then you should live and work in the USA and limit your absences outside of the USA to less than 6 months each time. Okay. But one thing is maintaining and abiding by the green card rules, and another thing is maintaining the clock for citizenship. There's two separate subjects going on there, right? So just want to make that clear. Okay, everybody, that'll do it for today. Good luck to everybody over the next few days. Let's hope the process continues for a few more days. I would love to see them hit the cap. And if they stop on Monday, they probably won't hit the cap. So I'm hoping they won't stop on Monday. We'll see. All right, everybody. Good luck. Bye-bye.